Hi, it's Steph here from Chaos in the Craft Room. Thanks so much for joining. Today I'll be going through Kendra's card challenge number 6. Now, if you're not familiar with Kendra's card challenges, that's where you use 6 pieces of pattern paper to make 15 cards following her layout designs. And if you have completed one of Kendra's card challenges, I can't wait to see what you create this time too. So if you like this video, please hit the like button and subscribe, and let's get started. So the paper pack that I used was the Honeybee stamps, the Spring Fling paper pad, and that was really, I just love the papers on this, and they're all 6 by 6 inch, so perfect for this card challenge. And the other benefit is that they are double-sided. So in the last challenge I did, the papers I used weren't double-sided, and that's completely fine. It just makes it a bit more challenging because Kendra says when you have double-sided paper, you can actually choose what side of the paper you want to use per card. So that was a huge benefit. So I was really glad I chose that this time round. It made it a little bit easier, and the papers in this pack are just lovely. The other thing that Kendra says to look out for when picking the paper that you are using for these cards is to try and make them bi-directional papers. So for example, you see with one of the papers I'm using, one side is love hearts, and usually you would use that in a certain direction, that piece of paper, and they're not really ideal to use unless she specifically says you can use them on one of the templates where you're using it in the same direction on all the cards. And then I realized when I had a look at the templates was that they're sort of paired up. So A and B go a lot together on cards, E and C go a lot together, and D and F go a lot together. So I sort of paired up the paper in those pairs to make sure that they work well on the cards that I'm making. And then I always make sure I get some coloured cardstock that match the paper that I use to make it easier when I'm assembling the cards. I can just grab something from there. And here I've cut out paper A, cut it out as she instructed, and the first cut you have to do is as per the scissors that she has on the template, just to make sure you don't cut it in the wrong spot. I have done that before, but this time around it did a bit better. And then number what card each piece of paper goes on. You can number it like I did, or you can just put them into 15 different plastic pockets as per the card number. So now to get started on card number A. So there's 2 pieces of pattern paper there that I've pre-cut out, and that's the side that I chose to go with. And the other pieces are the extra pieces that you need to cut out, as you can see on Kendra's template. And when you have already picked out the coloured pieces of paper that match your pattern paper, the whole process of picking what cardstock you want to go and what matches with the card that you're making and the cardstock that you're using goes much quicker. And then I just assemble them. I usually use glue because it's a lot quicker. I have used double-sided tape before, but that takes much longer. And with glue, at least you can sort of reposition it a little bit, wiggle it around before it dries. So that does make it a bit easier, and I quite prefer doing that. And I usually have 2 glues, one with a thicker tip and one with a thinner tip. And here's my finished first card, and there's 3 dots there with the glossy accent. It's a little hard to see on camera, but that's as per the Kendra's template. So for card number 2, I chose a cute little stamp. This one's from Stampin' Up! Pun Fun. I stink you're sweet. And I just love these stamps. I just think they're adorable and so punny. So yeah, this was my card number 2, and just love it. All right, so on to card number 3. So once again, I have a look at both sides of my pieces of pattern paper and decide to go with that pattern, and just have all the other pieces ready and cut, ready to go. And this one needs a bit of a strip up the top. So rather than using just a plain piece of paper, this time I've decided to use one with an actual sentiment. And then I changed my mind and decided to go with a plain strip after all. So especially that you need the 3 dots on top. So you can always change your mind. I do that many times when crafting. So for card number 4, I've used another one of the cute Stampin' Up! Stamps. And this time it's Love Your Latte with a cute cup of coffee. So this one suits a lot of people. But I have many punny stamps as well for tea. All right, so sketch number 5. So Kendra says when you don't like one of the pieces of pattern paper on the card, you can actually replace it with a plain bit of cardstock. And that's what I've done with one of the flags in this one. And I've also already pre-cut the extra background to the flags, the black cardstock that you can see there, just to save a bit of time in this video. I really like the design and layout of this card, and that's a really good benefit of this challenge is I always learn new ways to lay out pattern paper on cards and get familiar with different layouts. So I do love this challenge for that reason. And on my final card, I've actually stamped happy birthday on there as well. And that's actually white ink. I really find the Hero Arts Unicorn white ink pad is fantastic for that. I couldn't get any other white ink pad to stamp so sharply, although it's still not as sharp as if you emboss it. All right, so on to the next card. I always make sure I keep some stamped strips with sentiments on it in my card stash to make it nice and quick and easy to make cards, and that's why you can see the length of it in this card is a bit long, and I'll just trim that down to as it's appropriate for my card. So this is my finished card, and I really like this simple yet elegant card, and it really makes the pattern paper stand out as well. So for card sketch number 7, for this card you need the strip to be stripy as it says in Kendra's template, and you also need 3 dots on the side as well. And I've decided in my circle to use the Get Well Soon stamp, and yes, you know it, from Stampin' Up, the same stamp pack. And I also decided I wanted my little circle to go down a bit lower than where it is on the card sketch, but that's perfectly fine as well. Just get creative with it. And here's my finished card. So on to card number 8. And it does take a bit of time to cut these all out. Now, so this card has a lot of strips, and I found that the pattern paper that I had was sort of a bit random. So I decided for the extra strips I had to add for these cards were going to be different colours, and that was to try and blend all the colours a bit together and make them feel less random. And there I just realised I had my strips in the wrong order, so to what Kendra's template said. So I just rearranged them, and I like laying it out on my card just to get a feel of the distance between them before I go and stick them down. And then for the extra squares to go on top, you know, Kendra does say you don't have to perfectly stick to those shapes, and so I did do a bit of a more interesting border, and I just love this stamp. And Mother's Day is coming up here soon in Australia, so I thought it was perfect timing to create a few Mother's Day cards as well. So for sketch number 9, for this one I just embossed happy birthday onto the strip, and instead of the circle I'm just using the little bird placed in a slightly different spot, but this card turns out really well, and the yellow pulls in really nicely with the flowers, so I think it's really cute. All right, so on to card number 10, and for this card you'll realise that there's actually no backing piece of cardstock of plain paper, so I just cut out a white piece of paper to stick it onto there just to make it easier to stick it down. And then once again, this card needs another 3 dots. I feel like that's a common trend in this card challenge. And instead of the dots, I actually decided to use letters, which you'll see as well. And I've used the word mum, so once again with Mother's Day coming up. I still haven't decided on what my favourite card is that I've made, but this one is one of my favourites. And for this next card, for sketch 11, so we have to use something a bit different for this background. And you'll see there I've already inked up and embossed a sentiment onto this actual pattern paper. And for this background, I'm using gold foil cardstock, and I've just embossed it to give it a bit of texture and to get rid of a bit of the extra sort of shininess to the card, as sometimes I find them a little too shiny, is I've actually gone over and inked some ink over it to give it a bit more of a rustic look, and that's why I also inked up the actual pattern cardstock and then embossed some extra elements to go around the card. So I really like the way this card turned out. So for card number 12, my actual pattern paper was a white pattern, but I've decided to go in and colour it in. So you'll have remembered that pattern from card number 7 with the whale that I had on it, but this one I've actually coloured it in, and you know, you don't have to be limited to just using the exact pattern on the paper. You can play around with it and have some fun. And for this finished card, I used one of my favourite sentiments, and that's, to the world you may be one person, but to one person you may be the world. And I just think it's just so accurate, and why part of why we make cards. You know, we want to show how much we appreciate people, and that's why cards are so important and so valued, especially handmade ones, because there are a lot of extra hours go into those. And so for the next card, this one's really nice. It's got a lot of flags in it, and I quite like that. It's quite simple, but a really cute card. And for the extra dots, I've actually added stars to this card, and you can't see it too well there, but I've actually got a bit of sparkle that I've put on the stars as well. And for sketch number 14. So this one we need 2 circles, and I've actually decided to use vellum as one of my circles. My circles are a little bit bigger than what Kendra's card sketch says, but that's okay. And for the inner circle, I've actually used a flower, and that's from the Altenew Pony Banquet stamp set. And that's a layering stamp set, and I just love layering stamp sets. And now we're on to lucky last, card number 15. So don't forget, you can create your card vertically or horizontally. It doesn't matter. You don't have to stick to the direction that it shows in Kendra's card template. She does say you can use it in either direction. And I was playing around a bit with this card, and I decided to add on the lawn fawn critters to this card. And that is the Kendra's Card Challenge number 6. So it's been a lot of fun. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you really enjoyed this video. Please hit the like button and subscribe, and I can't wait to see you next time, and can't wait to see what you've created for Kendra's Card Challenge.